You're in the boutique hotel space, the Airbnb space. Your thing here is like Bourbon and Louisville, and I was super intrigued by it.
How many hot tubs are in the market? Probably a ton. And should you be competing on hot tubs still?
What does your portfolio look like now for people that are listening? Like, I know you have some boutique hotels, Airbnbs, but do you classify them as separate? Like, just talk to me about what your portfolio looks like. And
my dad was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was, on both sides. Just as far back as, you can take the family lineage. Entrepreneurship was kind of in the blood.
Andrew, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice podcast. We're excited to have you on the show, man. You came, there's so many people reaching out to us recently, but like this email sparked my eye, and I can kind of tell people why here. So you're in the boutique hotel space, the Airbnb space, and there's a lot of people that are doing that, but I mentioned this to you pre-recording. I don't know a lot of people doing it in a market like Louisville, Kentucky. And your thing here is like Bourbon and Louisville, and I was super intrigued by it. So I really appreciate you taking the time, coming on the show, and just sharing your story. So thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and excited to share kind of what we're doing with you guys.
Yeah, man, that's what it's all about. So tell us a little bit about your start. I don't know how old you are. You look like you might be around my age. I'm 33. I don't know. Is that a good guess?
35. That's a great guess.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So 35. So this is the age where people are like, what the hell am I doing in my corporate job? What's happening? I need to build wealth, right? I started it a little bit earlier in my mid to late 20s, but I'm curious about what got you even into the entrepreneurial game, the real estate game. Like, how did this come to be for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just kind of a little more background. My dad was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was, on both sides. Just as far back as, you can take the family lineage. Entrepreneurship was kind of in the blood. And so it was really never an option to go get a job. That wasn't in the belief system at all. But going to do your own thing outside of, what mom and dad were already doing, was what was preached. So it was kind of natural. And then got out of college. I was never a very good student and always a bad listener.
Me too.
So entrepreneurship was a natural avenue. So anyways, get out of school, did a couple of really great internships with some entrepreneurs, and really learned from those guys, learned a lot of things from them. Started an ice cream shop, and we ran that through 2022, I believe. We had two of those. We were on a food truck during COVID, got a little slow. I had a baker I wanted to keep around and was going to coffee shops, and I was like, man, I think we can deliver blueberry muffins. It's not that hard of a thing to really accomplish here. I have everything we need. So we started doing that. And I'm kind of leading into how we got into the real estate thing here. And so that just kind of exploded. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. Supposedly during COVID, the bakers could not deliver blueberry muffins. I don't know why, but we could. And quickly outgrow the back of the ice cream shop, call my dad. I'm like, hey, we need to lease another space for this bakery. And he was like, I'm so tired of seeing you pay rent. He was like, let's just go. I'll help you. Like, let's go buy something. And I found this 10,000 square foot building that had an Airbnb on top, 2 long-term tenants, and an office space on the first floor. And took my dad to the showing, and took a buddy of mine that had one of the original big Airbnbs in Louisville. And dad was like, this is not what I was talking about when I said buying a building. I wanted something smaller that you could run a bakery out of. This is like real. And I was like, well, I think the math works. And he was like, I'll entertain it. And my buddy over my shoulder, the whole tour, was like, you should Airbnb this whole thing. And I'm like, haha, you're funny. That's ridiculous. 10,000 square feet of Airbnb. And so we proceed with the bakery idea, buy the building, and the city of Louisville has some other ideas about whether or not we were going to put a bakery in there and the way they want us to do it. So our like little $250,000 bakery exploded well past $500,000. And I was like, I don't think I can sell that many blueberry muffins, and, kind of like sunk cost fallacy. Like, I'm not going to put more money after bad money. Like, we got to stop here.
Sure.
And I woke up at I remember it was like 4 a.m. one morning, just sweating. I was like, oh my God, I've created such a problem here. And I remembered my buddy Luke said, you should Airbnb the whole place. And I was like, well, I'm going to model that and see. And 3 or 4 hours later, some rough comps, some rough expenses in there. And I was like, we should Airbnb the whole place. And so we took our bakery budget and we divided the first floor, which was about 3,300 square feet. We just divided that in half, put 2 apartment units in it, and we ended up Airbnb-ing the whole building.
Wow.
And so we ended up with 5 apartment units. And then in those 5 apartment units, we have 15 total bedrooms. So that's how we got the start on the first piece of real estate.
Okay, so is Louisville Airbnb friendly? It seems like. I mean, it seems like you had to pivot pretty quickly, and to be able to like, you know, deal with permitting and changing and outfitting a building. I'm curious about like the steps you had to take on like, all right, well, we had an idea for this to be a bakery, but it seemed like it kind of was. I'm not saying it was a smooth transition. Maybe you'll tell me about that, but just fitting it out and making sure that like there was a demand for Airbnb. Did that just kind of fall into that?
Yeah, Louisville's pretty relaxed on its zoning. Now, Airbnb has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter. Now, where they have left Airbnb alone, these short-term rental permits, is within this commercially zoned property. And so this property just happened to fall in there, and there's a lot of options with those, including residential. So as they continue to clamp down on short-term rental and make it harder and harder for houses, we just kind of got to keep sailing along without too many problems.
Got it. I see.
I was lucky.
Yeah. So the fact that there were neighborhoods that people didn't really want Airbnbs in, you're in this commercially zoned area. It's like actually like some traction and people were kind of pushed towards you, which makes a whole lot of sense. I'm curious about how you learned the Airbnb business is, you know, business is business, but running a bakery is very, very different than you're running a hospitality business. You're the front desk of a hotel. I'm curious on the transition and how you figured out like what worked and what didn't work about Airbnb and how you were able to like keep occupancy and cleaners and just like implement that system.
Yeah. A lot of trial and error, a couple of refunds here and there. And we took a lot of fundamentals we had that bakery and that was more B2B, but we also had the 2 ice cream shops. And so that was kind of fundamentally hospitality. I was out there talking to people, and, you know, ice cream's a little different than a restaurant. It's really about creating a fun environment, having people, making sure they're having fun. It's family. So that part kind of naturally transitioned. And then just like, as you said, business fundamentals. That's really what made the transition easy. And, you know, what does this customer want? How can we differentiate ourselves in the market? And not just kind of create this commodity that's a rising tide. How can we really set ourselves apart for sustainability down the road?
So what does your portfolio look like now for people that are listening? Like I know you have some boutique hotels, you have some Airbnbs, but do you classify them as separate? Like just talk to me about what your portfolio looks like and your management of that.
Yeah. Right now we have just 2 properties. One is the 5-unit Airbnb. And the second one is another office building. And that's being converted to 8 more Airbnbs as we speak.
Okay, cool. So it's interesting, the boutique hotel versus Airbnb thing. I mean, to me, it sounds like you're kind of doing one and the same, like you're considering them the same thing. I have seen, and this is just, I've seen, so I'm sure you know some of these people like, maybe Rich Summers or Cassidy Warren or Blake Daly. Like, so we've had some of these guys on our podcast, and they've kind of shouted from the rooftops like Airbnb is dead, and I don't believe it. But I see what's happening with regulations, how boutique hotels are kind of like this shift. But are you kind of like you're renting out your boutique hotel on Airbnb, right? Like or on Vrbo? Like, are you looping them together? I'm just curious of the classification.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of playing on this in this gray area. It's like, we're set up as an Airbnb, but we're permitted and legally we're a hotel. And we try to provide, that unique Airbnb experience and that privacy that people want, but also we have our own cleaning staff and our own standards, and we try to operate at that hotel level. And rather than that kind of, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or sound bad, but that kind of hobby business owner, it's passive income Airbnb style.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm curious about the separation and where you feel like you're like differentiating yourself in the market. And maybe I could just point you in the right direction here, but like I'm reading, that you do bourbon tastings and private chefs and stuff like that. And I think that's what I've seen on Airbnb. It's tailored towards the guest more than the host for sure. But also what's happening is that they're throwing in these experiences for people to click on, and where can I do these experiences? And then like as a byproduct, here's where you stay during that experience. I mean, have you found that bringing people to an area like Louisville, where obviously bourbon is like at the forefront of people's minds, how have you like incorporated the experience into just the hotel and Airbnb game?
Yeah. So that's a big component of how we've set ourselves apart. Louisville is in fact a tertiary market. It's not the first thing that comes to mind for people. I don't think the Bourbon Trail is the first thing that comes to mind for people. Let's just take example, our customer group. We basically do bachelor parties on the weekend and corporate retreats during the week. And so these guys have probably gone on 4 or 5 bachelor parties already in the last 5 years. They've probably gone to Vegas, they've done Miami, and it's like, okay, well, where else can we go? And so we're kind of this new unique idea. We're probably not the easiest city to, number one, to get to navigate. And so we try, once guys have made their mind up, we're going to Louisville for the Bourbon Trail. We basically try to put it on a red carpet and say, just get to the property and then we'll take care of it from there. And we can be a one-stop shop. And those are kind of two interesting customers too, because planning is ridiculously difficult for both those types of groups, corporate and bachelor parties.
Well, Andrew, this is funny because you, we talked before, I don't know if this is while we were recording or not. I think you said you're 35. I'm 33. I've gotten to this point. It's funny. I just got engaged and I'm going to get married in the next year. Congrats. And I thought like, thank you. Thank you. I was like, dude, there is a 0% chance I'm going to Vegas or Miami. A negative percent chance. I cannot do it. First of all, I don't love to drink that much anyway, but like I'll still get after it every now and then. So, but my thought is that is like the party city. So it's like, okay, 25, 26, 28, 30 people are going to these places, but the 35-year-olds, like there's all this funny like memes on the internet. It's like, dude, I think we've tapped out of the bachelor parties in that way, in the table service or whatnot. So it is, sure. It's like you've come into this new, like, okay, how can we still have fun? How can we still maybe drink and enjoy ourselves? But you're in maybe a different experience. And I've tried to look at places maybe that were driving distance where I could golf or like something like this that's not as like in your face, like, clubbing till 4 a.m. And I find that you probably have a pretty solid market for it. And what are the corporate retreat stuff like too? Like just talk me through, like you're saying that's during the week and bachelor parties on the weekend. Is this all year long that you're booked up with this stuff?
Yeah, we do this 52 weeks a year. And it's great. And okay, so you talked about, like that's the bachelor party you want to go on. We're both in our mid-30s. People are always floored when I'm like, we do bachelor parties every weekend. Well, we do bachelor parties with 30-year-old guys that have good jobs and, they drive nice cars and they've got money to spend on bourbon. And so it's like this like super ideal customer that wants this experience. And they don't want to put 5 guys, per room and, just stack the place. Everybody wants their own room. Like, let's be comfortable here. We've got the money to do it. Right.
Yeah. I went on a bachelor party in the past, a couple years and I'm like, what floor or air mattress do I have to sleep on tonight? And it's like, I almost don't want to go, like, yeah.
Yeah. And then the corporate retreats there, it's younger guys on corporate retreats. And I think corporate retreats are changing. From what we're seeing is they're not these intense 3 to 5 day meeting sessions off site. They're kind of more creative. Yes, there's some meetings in there, but it's about fun. It's about connecting. And so it's almost a corporate bachelor party in a way. And they want privacy. They don't want to hang out in a hotel lobby. So we're kind of providing that that private space that they can run the meeting, have dinner, and then we're kind of planning these events for them as well. That helps whoever's got put in charge of it.
Yeah, I think the corporate culture of going and staying in a La Quinta is like, it's just people are just like kind of like, oh, great, I got to go and stay in this hotel. Like where that experience that you can create, not just for the bachelor parties, but for the corporate environment, I think that creates a winning culture. And that's like where people that are running these companies are thinking, okay, how can I create this experience that people that work with me and for me can enjoy and not just have this burden of like, I got to go on this retreat and leave my family for a few days. So I love it, man. I'm curious about the design, like, you kind of really are a serial entrepreneur here. Like, what about the design entity of doing this? Like, have you hired somebody out? Is this something that you and your partner or that, like, how did you create it's like, you kind of need like almost an interior designer. Is this something that you hired, or are you just like, you've developed this skill set along the way too?
Yeah, I got really lucky. One of the ice cream scoopers, she came in at 18 years old back in 2019, actually 5 years ago yesterday. She came in and she scooped ice cream. She was great, loyal employee. She was the only one that stuck with me through COVID. Once we got the ice cream shop back on its feet a couple months after COVID, I brought her into the office and she was kind of assistant. Well, today she's like our interior designer and she runs most of the operations. And so that is done in-house. I do have my hand in a lot of it. And I never thought I'd watch so much HGTV or look at Pinterest this much, but here we are.
That's cool. It's like anytime you can bring somebody up in your company, like, I'm not saying this from experience, but I feel like if somebody can feel like they can grow and have this upward mobility and you're flexible with them, like they're going to want to work harder. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. What about like, what do you charge for? I'm curious about nightly rates and everything, like just so people that can get tactful about like, hey, can I do something like this too? Can I turn a commercial spot into a potential Airbnb? I'm curious on what, you rent the nightly rates of some of these rooms out for, or like what you charge for the events and how the structure works.
Yeah. So our nightly rate typically is about $2,500 to $3,500 a night. And that's a full property buyout. We really like to do those. From an operational standpoint, they're great. From a guest experience standpoint, they're even better because you've got the whole place and you can be as quiet or party as hard as you want. So that's amazing. And then, usually our experiences, we kind of have a framework that we like, that we know that works for people. And then it's just the level of experience they want within that framework. And it goes up until they run out of money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, dude. I was thinking about this as you start to build out this business model. So it's not like you're putting this on Airbnb by the room, really. It's by the property. Like you want your property to be rented out by a group so that you can just accommodate them specifically, and you don't have some people over here that are like trying to have a couple's night out, and the other people are trying to have a party. So that, to me, it's even a different model than I even thought, which I really like. You're like an events company with a real estate background in a way, right? Yeah,
we really play in a gray area everywhere you look at it. It's kind of cool in that way. It's a lot of events. It's sometimes it's just a lot of stays, but to your point, we like the full property buyout. And when you start mixing people and you kind of start playing in that like commoditized $99 a night Airbnb space, and you're really getting people that are just shopping on price and how cheaply they can stay in the city, and they usually want Ritz-Carlton service for
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, the Airbnb, it's interesting, like just how the ratings work. And Ryan and I own a percentage of like 50 units in the Pocono Mountains. And then I own a short-term rental in Tampa, Florida that I've talked about on the podcast. And, you'll get the people that are like, amazing, awesome stay, love it, 4 stars. And you're like, how, there's the realization of how much this like hurts hosts when you don't, or if somebody just by somebody giving a 3-star, even if they had a good experience, like how much that actually pains the hosts. So I think it's great to have all one experience so that you can be like, hey, did everyone have a great time collectively, and you're not managing a bunch of different guests. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about your future goals with this. So you have these 2 properties. Are you trying to build out more properties in the Louisville area? Have you thought about expanding to new markets? Is the focus just optimizing these 2? What's the status there?
Yeah, so currently we're just optimizing these 2. And then I think if we do leave the city, we might do some sort of like a franchise or a licensing type situation. So that we're not slowed down by the acquisition of the property. So, finding existing properties that may be in place that could be utilized with this framework that we have.
Great, man. So as you've learned this game over the past few years, I mean, there's so many strategies that go into Airbnb. Like it's I think the challenge is, I think anyone thinks that they can toss up photos and create, put their grandmother's house on Airbnb. And I know that you actually could do that in 2020, maybe 2021, with rates super low. Anyone could buy any property. And now it's like, the margins are getting crunched, like the regulations are setting in. So you do, you kind of teach people how to have a guest experience, how to do revenue management and pricing strategies, how to do marketing and branding. Can you talk about the consulting side of what you do and helping people build a profitable short-term rental business on their own?
Yeah. So we've had a couple people reach out and, just interested in the way we're doing business. Actually, one of them recently was a guest that stayed with us, and they'd come to Louisville from California, and they just wanted to know about the market. And, we helped them get oriented in the market, kind of find a gap in there that was competitive, so that they were not just competing on price and they had something unique. So we try to help people do that when they reach out.
Cool. Yeah. Are you mostly focused on, when you're teaching people, can people come to you and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this in Destin or in Missouri or whatever? Are you focused like, no, I feel like my coaching is best suited for my backyard in Louisville or Kentucky in general?
Yeah, I think, we can help people anywhere they are. And, the fundamentals are there. The numbers are there. We like to run everything off of numbers. That's really the way we do it. There's a little bit of gut feel, right? But, and that's the creative part, but we like to run it off the numbers, and that's the way we run our business. So the fundamentals work anywhere.
What are you looking to do? I mean, I kind of asked you about this a little bit in terms of like future growth and optimization. I know you're focused on stabilizing right now, but like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And maybe as an entrepreneur who came from the ice cream bakery, like into the short-term rental game, maybe you don't know the answer to the question, but I'm curious on like, what do you think the next 5 years looks like for you? Do you see yourself growing this side of the business? Do you see yourself growing in the consulting more? Like, what's the objective, I guess, if we're looking 5 years down the line?
Man, that's a big question. No one's asked me that in a while. 5 years is interesting. If I look back in 5 years, I probably would have never guessed that we're doing this today. I would hope that we're still growing. I've got some bigger goals in mind that I want to achieve. We're just plugging away, and we'll see. We're trying to figure out this next step. I kind of see our model and our size team and how small, nimble, we are. We may not be able to handle as the owner, operator, developer, this whole system that we're running currently. We probably can't pull that off in another city, just from a management standpoint. So we're trying to kind of pull back, collect currently, and like, okay, well, what are we good at? Where do we have momentum? Where can we continue to sell things to our existing customers? And then how can we expand geographically and use some of this new AI stuff coming out? And, what's the right play with that, with how quickly things are moving in that space?
Yeah, I think focusing on the experience is the biggest thing. But I'm curious if you can give people some tactful like things that you're seeing as like winning strategies. If people are trying to start up an Airbnb in 2025, like what what are you seeing? Maybe it's a specific revenue management strategy or a pricing strategy or a guest experience strategy. And I know it's probably market to market, but I'm curious if maybe you could just open up the vault a little bit and tell us about what you think separates, I know you, but also like how other people can win if you are thinking about getting in the game, quote unquote, late, because that's what people think in 2025. I don't think it's late. I just think you have to do it different. So what do you think?
Yeah, Airbnb has, you get basically one photo to capture their attention. The title doesn't matter. And then you have 5 photos to sell it. And maybe like, what is that, 7 lines of copy in the first thing? You got to nail those. And they have to be so unique. And they have to be, that thumbnail has to be unique within the thread of hundreds of other ones that people are scrolling through. So, how are you positioning yourself on the size of your property, the amenities that you're offering compared to what's being offered in your market? The classic one from years ago was like, you should put a hot tub in. Now, how many hot tubs are in the market? Probably a ton. And should you be competing on hot tubs still? I don't know. Probably not. But,
Sure.
Finding that hole in the market and then really defining it and owning it so that customers can clearly differentiate you from the other guys.
How important do you feel like it is for someone to be a super host or a guest favorite, and or like some of these things that Airbnb has started to like elevate people in the rankings? I've done some research recently because I'm like shifting my management company in Tampa to a different management company because I really want to be like high visibility and my property is great, and it's done good, but I just feel like I could be doing better. So my question is like, in terms of like the inner workings of like the marketing for Airbnb, do you think those things are important, or are they like, your property, that first picture regardless will sell itself even if you're not at the top 5% of homes?
Yeah. I think those things are very important. I mean, guests look for them, the algorithm pushes them, but I think the most important thing in that algorithm that we see in Louisville is velocity, the number of people clicking it and the number of people booking it. So let's just call it, when you get 3 days out and you're past your booking window where a majority of the market has booked, you better just start giving it away. And then the next piece comes in of like vetting your guests really well, so you're not putting bad people in there.
Do you think, Andrew, that like guests understand this game a little bit now too? Because what I've seen happen is that I used to see a booking window of 45 days. So people would, I would typically be booked 45 days out, and then the booking window shrunk to like 30 days on average. And now I see, depending on the season, some people are booking week of. Like the Pocono Mountains, people will, and this is just an example for this market, people will on a Sunday or a Tuesday book for that weekend. And you, as a host, you kind of have to hold strong on some of these prices because it's going to get booked, but people are waiting last minute, especially if it's a tertiary market like yourself where you can you can drive to, and you're not having to get on a plane where like maybe an Airbnb in Mexico or something, it's like booked out months in advance. I'm curious on the strategy there. You said like explain what you meant about that 3-day window where like you have to give it away. Is there any tidbits there that you can talk about in terms of pricing?
Yeah. So typically what we do is, we look for, let's just talk about our kind of individual units that we're typically booked. We've had our full property buyout, the weekends are booked, and now we're looking at weekdays for these individual units. So we'll open those up at 30 days. And, the algorithm does not appreciate that. And so we'll kind of run a little bit more aggressive price out there. And then we'll continue to burn that down all the way to about $70 a night. Like nothing. And, that's the way we keep our individual units at the top of the algorithm.
Got it. Okay. And this is, I guess, outside of, if you were to have to book something outside of the entire place getting booked, which I imagine is, you're saying it's like 95% of the times that people are booking the entire place.
Yeah. But we want to keep those listings healthy and moving. So when we do have a weekend that we have to open up, it gets booked at what we want.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man, this is really interesting stuff. I appreciate you coming on and sharing the story. I'm wondering about kind of as we wind down the show. I know you mentioned that like your parents are entrepreneurs, your grandparents are entrepreneurs. It's kind of in your blood. I'm curious about the why behind what you do. Like it's to pivot quickly and make decisions and go from a bakery ice cream shop to an Airbnb business. I mean, from what I'm hearing, you could be doing something completely different in the next 5 years. I don't know that you will. I hope that you're doing whatever you want to do, but it's like you almost have that serial entrepreneur in your blood. I'm curious about the kind of what gets you up out of bed every day, and where do you think this drive comes from? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but I like to ask it to people.
Yeah. I think part of it's just being really blessed and being able to do this, right? The knowing that I get to get up and build, amazing properties, and we get to have amazing guests, and I get to go tour them through and meet them, and the fun of that. And versus I've sat in an office before, and I don't want to go back there. I mean, it's almost I would say it's a fear to have to go back to an office, and it's a bit running scared away from that.
No, dude, first of all, I appreciate you sharing that, because Ryan and I did a podcast episode where one of the questions, we were kind of interviewing each other, and we asked, like, are you chasing something or are you running from something? And I feel like a lot of people aren't candid about that. Like, I have this mentally unemployed, what's it called? Like mentally unable to be employed type mentality. Like, I can't have somebody tell me what to do. Like, that's crazy. Even if I make less money, I'd rather like do my own thing. So I totally get it. And like, I was saying to my fiance last night, like we were at dinner, and I was like, yeah, like I think the Severance thing of like being in like a cubicle with like the fluorescent lights is like, that's where I go in my nightmares, like that's the thing. And dude, you could be doing a great job there. You could have a great job, but like for some reason, if I'm chained to like a desk and doing like Excel, I'm just like, get me out of here. So I get it completely. It makes
here's another piece that's really motivating for me personally. The cubicle is the same thing every day. You have a job description, and you're going to do these 10 bullet points every single day until you get a promotion for 10 new bullet points, right? And they're probably not going to let you get too far out of the box of those 10 bullet points at any point. But doing what we do every day, I'm down there, I'm learning more. I don't care that much about plumbing, but now I know a ton about plumbing, and I know a ton about interior design and all sorts of different things. So it really just, it's learning new things, getting to do new things, building exceptionally cool properties, dreaming things up,
having the variability of your day to day, I think is exciting, right? And where it's like you're not doing the same thing over and over again. And I think the challenge with corporate, the challenge with corporate that I've seen is that I firmly believe that the person that's one step ahead of you or two steps ahead of you only wants you to be so good. That's the biggest challenge that I've seen. Is it's like the only way to succeed, and if you talk about success as like making money, sure, then what you would do is you would work somewhere for 2 years and you'd hop and you'd hop and you'd hop. You can make a ton of money. You can go into consulting. You can do all that. But the person that's ahead of you has a passive aggressive way of keeping you just not as good as them. Because why would in this corporate like middle management, why would they want you to grow to outgrow them? And it's hard, because that's why I like small businesses, because I think a lot of young entrepreneurs and business owners understand that if you grow somebody to the value that to their best of their ability, they might leave. And that's good, because then they're fulfilling their dream. There's more of like a personal connection there. So, anyway, man,
I'll share a quick story with you on that. When I was maybe 21. I was still in college. I knew the CEO of a public company here in Louisville, and he gave me an internship. He was, we had just been talking about some things, and it was social media in the early days. And I was like, well, I got to go to, up there to John's office. And I called her my keeper. She was like in charge of me as the intern for the summer. And she was like, well, you can't just go up there. You have to go through the proper channels. And I was like, well, what's that? And she's like, well, this person and this person and this person, and then the CMO, and then you can get up there. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to go up to over there. And she's like,
meaning just to talk to him? Like that was the, oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, and he was like, she came with me and we went in his office and she was scared to death and we had a great time and did what we needed to do. And then I was on my way and she was like, you can't do that. Like it just didn't compute with her.
Yeah. There's like this hierarchy that's like, I mean, dude, I understand it to a level of like, you have to create an order in order to like really create a business. And I'm not like a 8-figure, 9-figure business owner. So I'm not trying to say that, but it's just like, the way that people interact in that corporate world, it's like, it's not real to me. And that's what I don't like about it. It's like, you have to do this a certain way and they put you in a box and you have to dress a certain way and act a certain way. And you can't get too friendly with this person because I don't know. It's like I am like allergic to it. So
yeah,
I think that's maybe why people are listening to this podcast. Do your job, do it well, grow, but then, also build wealth on the side and maybe make it your full-time thing like you have. So I think this is awesome, man. I really appreciate your time. I'm curious if people want to learn more about you, they want to network with you, maybe even invest in some of your future projects. Like what's the best way to get in touch?
You can follow me on all the socials at I am Andrew Llewellyn and then andrewllewellyn.com. And then if you want to stay with us, experience the Bourbon Trail, Churchill Downs, anything else we're doing, or you got a big bachelor party, reach out, superstaysstr.com.
Superstaysstr.com. That's awesome. I didn't even talk to you about the Kentucky Derby type of like, maybe not Kentucky Derby, but you said Churchill Downs and just like the horse racing aspect of it too. I think that's like, that is like like Augusta, right? Like people are staying in Augusta for the Masters. So very cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I think this was a cool episode. So thanks for taking the time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Corey.